Okay, we're streaming live on YouTube. We're waiting for Shubha Vilas Prabhu. Streaming live on YouTube. We're waiting for Shubha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitya Gopranande, Hare Hare, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So Hare Krishna and welcome. Thank you all very much for joining this evening for a very, very special Zoom presentation by His Grace Shubha Vilas Prabhu. So those of you may not know, His Grace Shubha Vilas Prabhu is a very successful author, motivational speaker, and he's also serving Srila Prabhupada's movement for many, many years. He served as a monk in the ISKCON movement, and he's also very well educated in his in the professional fields of electronic engineering, and then he later on, after finishing electronic engineering, pursued the specialized field of patent law, and he has penned a number of best-selling books. One of them is called Chronicles of Hanuman. There's a 6-part series on the Ramayana, which is hugely successful, on how to apply the essence, the teachings of the Ramayana in contemporary life. And we are extremely grateful that His Grace Shubha Vilas Prabhu has joined us this evening and giving us valuable time on our ISKCON of New Jersey Zoom channel. Thank you very much, Shubha Vilas Prabhu, and please enlighten us with your kind words. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'd like to offer some prayers before we begin speaking. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथामृतं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरे वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितालपावेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामो राम रामो हरे 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 कृष्णा. Happy and grateful to be amidst all of you all here today on this uh, very auspicious online Sangha of Vaishnavas. And I'll be speaking today on the subject matter of Hanumanji's journey to Lanka. And we will be learning a lot of things as sadhakas that we can apply in our own lives. A lot of times people feel that Ramayana is not a spiritual book, or rather, it's not a book that can teach us Krishna consciousness, but it's more of life teachings and all that. But actually, it's not like that. Ramayana has so much depth of Krishna consciousness in it that can actually teach us to live life of sadhakas also properly. So I'm going to speak some aspect of the Ramayana, which is very, very devotional and very, very powerful for us as sadhakas to learn and to absorb from. So this whole journey of Hanumanji towards Lanka actually represents a sadhaka's journey towards Bhakti Devi. Mother Sita represents Bhakti, and she is in Lanka, and all of us are like Hanumanji and like the Vanar Sena, that is traveling from Kishkinda all the way to Lanka in search for Mother Sita. So all of us are also in search for Bhakti Devi. We are all in search for um, the goddess of devotion, Mother Sita, and we also have a whole journey in the same direction. And just like the monkeys, all of us in the beginning of our journeys are very excited. Everyone who comes into Krishna consciousness in the beginning, the first few years are like super excitement, and everything is new and everything is exciting, and everybody feels that we'll find Bhakti Devi today. You know? In fact, all the monkeys when they leave from Kishkinda, the group of Vanaras that are living for the southern direction, especially, they are extremely excited. They're headed by Angad, and in that same group we have Jambavan, we have monkeys like Nala, Neela, we have Hanumanji also in that same group. So we have a lot of very capable monkeys in that group that is traveling towards the southern direction. So initially, when they leave from Kishkinda, they are all excited. They're all very sure they'll find Sita. Um, the initial 1 month passes very quickly for the Vanaras who are traveling towards the south. And in that 1 month, they travel mountains, they explore caves, They explore, rivers, beds of rivers. They explore so many terrains with no success of finding Sita. So while they are exploring in the beginning, there is a lot of excitement and there is a lot of fun and there is a lot of adventure. They defeat demons. They, they comb the area thoroughly, not even leaving one single inch. So the initial phase of bhakti is always like that. The excitement is very, very high, and the positivity also is very, very high. But as you keep practicing your devotional service, after a few years, a time comes when you start having a slack period. So after 1 month of search, the monkeys they entered into a forest, which was very dense, very dark, and very very intense experience. The Valmiki Ramayana calls this as the forest of doubts. When the monkeys entered into this forest of doubts, all kinds of doubts began to rise in their mind. They started wondering, are we in the right direction? They started wondering, is Sita at all there anywhere? They started wondering, are we wasting our time looking for Sita, looking for something that doesn't exist? They started feeling thirsty, they started feeling hungry, they started feeling exhausted, and they all were really in the verge of giving up. A lot of times, as we practice bhakti, we enter into this zone of doubts where we start having doubts about every single thing, and we start having doubts about our own capacity. We start having doubt about the process of bhakti. We start having doubt about all those people who are guiding us, and we start having so many doubts. Especially the heat is killing us, or the thirst is killing us. We're not able to experience any fun, joy, excitement in bhakti anymore. We don't seem to be having a direction anymore. We don't seem to be seeing the destination anymore. We don't seem to be having fun anymore. So while all the Vanaras were having this tough period, only one among them did not experience the heat, did not experience doubts, and did not experience hopelessness. And that was Hanumanji. And why did Hanuman not experience all this while all other monkeys were experiencing this? That's a very interesting reason. It is explained that Hanuman, when all the monkeys left from Kishkinda, from the association of Lord Ram, before they left, Lord Ram blessed all of them. In fact, Lord Ram touched everybody's head. But most of the monkeys, they were so excited, and in their excitement, they completely forgot about their interaction with Lord Ram. Naturally, it happens when you're excited and too many things are happening. But one of them, Hanumanji, when Lord Ram touched him on his head, Ram touched Hanuman with both his hands on the head of Hanuman. Hanumanji just closed his eyes and savored that experience of Lord Ram touching his head. And Hanumanji held that experience in his heart very deeply. And throughout the journey, throughout the whole experience of Hanuman searching for the Sita, he constantly experienced the hands of Ram on his head. And because he experienced the hand of Ram on his head, first of all, when something is on your head like this, like a shade, you don't experience heat anymore. So Hanumanji never experienced any heat anymore. He never experienced any doubts. He never experienced any of the intense experiences that the monkeys were having because he felt sheltered under the hands of Lord Ram. In fact, when Hanumanji was leaving, Hanumanji touched the lotus feet of Lord Ram to take blessings. And when Hanumanji touched, his both hands were on the feet of Lord Ram. And at that point, Ram touched the shoulders of Hanumanji to pick him up. So naturally, if somebody touches your feet, you tend to touch the shoulders to pick the person up. So Lord Ram touched Hanumanji's shoulders to pick him up. Hanumanji told Lord Ram, "My dear Lord, let us remain frozen like this. Let us remain like this only. As long as my hand are at your feet, your hands will remain on my shoulders. The moment I remove my hand from your feet, you remove your hand from my shoulders." What does Hanumanji actually mean by that? What is he trying to say? Hanuman is trying to tell Lord Ram that when my hands are at your feet, that means when I am taking shelter of your lotus feet, at that point, your hands are on my shoulders. Ram's hand being on the shoulders of Hanuman, what does it indicate? It indicates shoulders indicates the your ability to do things. Whatever you do in life, you do it through your shoulders, basically. So shoulder is an indication of all your abilities. So Ram touching the shoulder of Hanuman means Ram is empowering Hanuman. He is blessing Hanuman to do things, achieve things, um, empowering him to do great things in life. So that means when Hanuman's hand are at the feet of the Lord is empowering him to do so many things. So Hanuman was in this mood that everything that he is doing is not doing by him, is not being done by him, but it is being done by the blessings of the Lord. And therefore Hanuman didn't feel the heat, didn't feel the pain, didn't feel the pressure. Sadhana in the initial days is like tightening a screw. If you ever tighten the screw in in the beginning stage of the screw, you can just tighten with your hand only. But when the screw goes very deep inside, then you need a screwdriver to really tighten it very hard. In fact, the last few seconds of tightening the screw are the toughest. Initially, it's very easy. Anybody can do it. You can do it with the hand also. But as you go deeper and deeper and deeper, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher. And therefore, similarly, initially, when we practice sadhana, it's very easy to practice. Chanting the holy names becomes very, very smooth and very easy. But as you grow in your number of years in practicing Krishna consciousness, then the tightening process becomes harder and harder and harder. And that's when you need to pay more attention. And that's when you need to really intensify your focus on the process. So all the monkeys were going towards the south, and um, the monkeys were being led by Angad. So the first person right in the front of the army was Angad, and the last person at the end of the army was Hanumanji. Angad represents intelligence, and Hanumanji represents faith. Krishna in the Gita, he says, Aham sarvasya prabho matas sarvam pravartate iti matva vajante vam buddha bhava samanvitaha. He says, for one to practice devotional service, buddha bhajante mam, he says, Aham sarvasya prabho matas sarvam pravartate iti matva vajante mam. Bhajan means worship. How do you worship Krishna? He says, Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha. You need to worship him with the combination of Buddha, which is intelligence, and Bhava, which is emotions or faith. So you need both intelligence and faith to worship the Lord. And therefore, in the beginning of the army was Angad, who represents intelligence, and in the end of the army was Hanumanji, who represents faith. So the initial phase of our life, intelligence needs to be in the front. So Angad was right in the front of the army in the beginning of the search, beginning of the process of bhakti, searching for Mother Sita. And Angad was leading the army. So as long as your intelligence leads in the beginning, it's great. And then faith was at the back. Hanumanji was at the back of the army. Now, Hanuman also represents Pavanaputra. He is the wind god. He is the son of the wind god. So, wind, when it blows from the front, it can stop you. It can prevent you from going ahead. But when wind blows from behind, it can actually inspire you to go ahead. It's just like in the sails where the wind was from behind and the boats would go ahead. Similarly, Hanumanji being behind actually inspires the whole army to go ahead in the front. But there was a certain point where Angad got bewildered. The monkeys were searching high and low. At one point, they came across a mountain on which there was a huge cave, a deep, deep, dark cave. As soon as Angad came across the cave, he said, I can't go in. He stepped behind. Why did Angad say, I can't go in? There are two reasons. The first reason is that all the problems in the life of his father Wali came with caves only. When Wali came across a cave into which he jumped to run after a demon named Mayavi, he told Sugriv to stand outside. And Sugriv stood outside for quite some time. Many months passed, Wali just didn't come out. And finally, Sugriv heard the sound of Wali shouting loudly. It seemed in pain. So Sugriv, he thought Wali is dead inside, and he covered the cave with a big stone, and he came out. Then he became the ruler of the kingdom. And then Wali came out, destroyed that mouth of the cave, and then he and Sugriv had a massive fight. So all the problems in the life of Wali began when he entered into a cave. So when Angad, his son, saw this massive cave, he said, I can't enter into caves. Because my father, all the problems in his life began with caves only. And the second thing is, the nature of intelligence is intelligence needs clarity to enter into anything. So before entering into a cave, he couldn't even see his own hand inside the cave. So Angad is thinking, how will I enter into a cave where I can't see anything? Angad said, I can't enter into this cave. As soon as Angad stepped back, Hanumanji came in the front. Angad went right to the back now. So there are some problems in life that intelligence can solve. But there are many problems in life that intelligence cannot solve. That is the time you need faith. Hanumanji represents faith. And Hanumanji walked in the front. And when he saw the cave, he walked in straight. He didn't need any light. He didn't need any direction. He didn't need any help. Because faith can see the intangible, can conceive the inconceivable, can experience what normally you cannot experience with your own eyes. Hanumanji just walked in straight. Because if you remember, Hanumanji always felt guided by Lord Ram. And Hanumanji, when he walked into the cave, the first monkey who was behind Hanuman caught the tail of Hanuman and walked in behind Hanuman. And the second monkey who was behind that monkey caught the tail of the first monkey and walked in behind. And the third monkey caught the tail of the second monkey and walked in behind. So like that, very soon, all the monkeys walked in, and all of them walked in catching each other's tail. This is known as Guru Parampara. Guru Parampara essentially means the first one who goes in right in the front, he has the vision. He can see things which all of us can't see, which everybody else can't see. But when he goes in, the second person just holds the tail of that person and walks in. And the third person just holds the tail of that person and walks in. Though we may not be able to see things the first person can see, but if we have faith in the first person, and if we have faith in the parampara and the disciplic succession, we know that the first person is taking us in the right direction. And that's what the whole idea of Guru Parampara is. All the monkeys, they had faith in the monkey that is leading them right ahead. And Hanumanji had faith in the Supreme Lord's direction and guidance. And that is how the whole idea of Guru Parampara is. Somebody out there has direction. Somebody out there has clarity. And somebody out there has the understanding of what is right and what is wrong. And we simply follow in that faith. Excuse me. Uh, when all the monkeys entered into the cave, this was a massive, massive cave. And finally, they entered into a section of the cave which was huge and lighted up. And in that section, was a personality whose name was Swayam Prabha. She was a yogini, a very powerful personality, and she was sitting there and meditating. And when she saw all these monkeys coming in, she welcomed them. She said, I was expecting y'all, and here's a big feast for y'all. She had arranged a massive feast for the monkeys. The monkeys were so excited after so many months, so many days, they were actually getting to eat and drink water. They ate to their heart's content. Some of the monkeys started saying, just forget Sita, just forget Ram, just forget the mission. Let us just stay in this cave and enjoy ourselves. There is so much fun over here, there's so much food over here. That's what happens to some of the people who get carried away by distractions. They lose focus on the goal. Hanumanji obviously was not really interested in all this. So he asked her, can you show us a way out? Because now once they entered into the cave, they lost track of what is the exit, how to leave the cave, basically. So Hanumanji asked her, can you help us find a way out? Swayamprabha told all the monkeys, I'll help you all. But you cannot travel by the same way that you came in. You need to travel through the yogic way, which is the way of faith. So she told the monkeys, I want all of you to close your eyes. So now imagine asking monkeys to close their eyes. Monkeys never close their eyes. I mean, very difficult to get a group of monkeys to close their eyes. But here's Swayamprabha was telling them, all of you all just close your eyes. And all the monkeys, they close their eyes. And actually they can feel themselves flying at a great pace. And somehow, some of the monkeys, they lose their patience. They close their eyes, and after a few seconds, they open their eyes. That's the amount of patience they have, basically. So when they open their eyes, they find that they are in front of an ocean, a massive, colossal ocean right in front of them. And just imagine if the monkeys had a little more faith and they had kept their eyes open, eyes closed for a little more time, they would have probably reached Lanka also, you know. But somehow, because the monkeys just couldn't close their eyes for a long period of time, they only reached that much. So now they had another big problem waiting for them. They came out of a cave, but they landed in front of an ocean. Now there was a huge ocean waiting in front of them, and they had to cross it. So now all the monkeys began to discuss them among themselves. Obviously, I'm just going a little fast forward into the story. This story itself can easily take something like about at least 12 hours for us to just reach Lanka if we go really in great details into the story. But I'm not going to go into details of it, so I'm just going a little forward so that we reach where we want to reach. So the monkeys, they are in this, they come to know eventually that they are across the ocean, and Mother Sita is on the other side of the ocean, 800 miles ocean to cross. Now, the question is who's going to do it? So the different of the Vanaras, they have started having discussions among themselves how much they can do. So some of them, one person says I can do 10 miles, another says I can do 20 miles, another says I can do 50 miles, somebody says I can do 100 miles, somebody says I can do 500 miles, and finally one of them say I can do 800 miles. Angad, he says I can do 800 miles. So the monkeys are all excited. If Angad can do 800 miles, then we are sorted. Our problem is solved. Then Angad said, but there's a problem. The problem is that I can do 800 miles, but I'm not sure if I can come back. So now what's the point in landing in Lanka and not being able to come back, you know? So again, they were all disappointed and sad, you know, they didn't know what to do. Angad did not say why he cannot come back. So a lot of the monkeys assumed that it is due to lack of energy. After crossing a 800-mile ocean, probably he may not have the energy to come back. But actually, Jambavan, who was the wisest among them, he knew why Angad is saying, I can't come back. The reason Angad said, I can't come back is because Angad is the son of Vali. And being the son of Vali, he was prone to getting attracted towards temptations in life. And therefore, Angad was thinking, if I land in Lanka and if I get distracted and attracted by the beauty of Lanka, I may not be able to come back. I may just get stuck over there in Lanka, because I love Lanka. It's like, jumping into Las Vegas and, you're not sure whether you're going to come back or no. So if you're not sure, just don't go there. So Amgad said, I'm sure I can go to Lanka, but I'm not sure I can come back. That's what he meant, basically. You're not sure that he can resist the temptations of Lanka. So now all of them were sad and dejected. They didn't know what to do. And at that point, the Jambawan started looking at all the monkeys and started analyzing their strengths and weaknesses. And then he saw that one of them had not spoken at all. And that was Hanumanji. He had not said at all how much he can do. The reason Hanuman had not spoken at all, because the question was wrong according to Hanumanji. What is the question? The question was, how much can you do? Hanumanji was thinking, I can do nothing on my own. But if the question was, how much can you do on behalf of Lord Ram, or under the guidance of Lord Ram, or empowered by Lord Ram, then Hanumanji would have probably spoken. Because the question was how much you can do, Hanumanji felt this is a very stupid question to answer. Who can do anything? Nobody can do anything, because our abilities and powers and strengths don't come from us. They come from the Supreme Lord. Hanumanji always felt himself to be like an arrow. Now, how far can an arrow go? It does not depend on the arrow. It depends on the person who is shooting the arrow. If the person who is shooting the arrow is very powerful, he has very powerful arms, the arrow can go long distance away. But if the person who is shooting the arrow has very weak arms, the arrow can only go so much. And therefore, Hanumanji felt like an arrow in the arms, in the hands of Lord Ram. And therefore, how far can Hanuman go? It doesn't depend on him. It depends on Lord Ram. Hanuman can cross the whole world also if Lord Ram wants that. And therefore, Hanumanji did not speak up at all when he was asked this question, how far can you jump? Jambavan then sat with Hanumanji and began to remind Hanuman of his powers, began to remind Hanuman about his purpose and all the boons that he had received in his younger days. And this was the time to utilize all that. So it's very interesting that Hanuman, all these years of his life, he did not utilize the boons that he had got from the gods. Why? He obviously, apparently he had a curse that made him forget all the boons, but that's an external reason. The actual understanding is that when Hanumanji was given all these boons, he didn't have a purpose at that point to use all these boons. Because he didn't have a purpose, he also forgot all these powers. But now that he has a purpose in life, now that he has a mission in life, now that he has a service for Lord Ram, all those boons, all those powers came back to Hanumanji. Similarly, all of us, we have so many skills and talents that we may be having within us, but we tend to forget all those skills and talents till a point where we actually are having a mission, um, a direction, and a goal to achieve. And that's when all those skills and talents come back to us in ways that we can never conceive of. So here, Hanumanji, he gets reminded and he becomes inspired, and suddenly he starts growing up huge. He becomes massive in size, and he starts running towards the Mahendra Parvat. He starts running towards this huge mountain named Mahendra, and in 3 leaps he reaches the top of the mountain. And as Hanuman is standing on top of the mountain, the monkeys below are admiring Hanumanji. They are at awe at Hanumanji. Imagine one of them has suddenly become a superhero now. Hanuman was one of them till this point of time. And now, a few minutes later, he's become a hero. He's become someone very different. And the monkeys were all admiring their colleague. It's always difficult when someone who is your colleague, someone who is your equal, suddenly becomes a hero, suddenly becomes somebody very, very powerful, someone very, very empowered. It becomes very difficult to digest that. So, for a lot of people whose equal has become a hero suddenly, it becomes very difficult to handle that change, the transformation. And that too, if it happens in a sudden moment. So Hanumanji was so far unequal to them and now suddenly he's become a hero. But the monkeys were amazing. They suddenly changed the way they looked at Hanumanji. From looking at him as a colleague, now they're looking at him as a hero, as a superhero who's going to achieve some powerful things. The monkeys did not have insecurities in them. The monkeys did not have feelings of envy towards Hanumanji. They had awe. They had feelings of reverence. They had feelings of great encouragement. And they were all encouraging Hanumanji. Yes, you can do it. We are with you. And all the monkeys were inspiring Hanumanji. And when they're looking on top at Hanumanji, they were impressed. Here was a huge mountain, Mahendra Parvat. On top of that was standing Hanumanji, who himself was looking like a huge mountain. So it's like a mountain standing on top of a mountain. So some of them felt this was like when Kurmadev was holding the Mandar Parvat on top of him. The Kurmadev himself was so massive in size, and on top of him, the Mandar Parvat was even more massive in size. And such an amazing experience that all these Vanaras who were below were having, looking at Hanumanji's greatness and looking at Hanumanji's power. This was the second mountain that Hanumanji climbed. The first mountain was a mountain on which the cave was there, and the second mountain was the Mahendra Parvat. Before one reaches Bhakti Devi, one has to climb three mountains. All of us, before we reach Bhakti Devi, before we reach Mother Sita, all of us have to climb three mountains. The first mountain represents the mountain of faith. Hanumanji first had to climb the mountain of faith. And on top of the mountain of faith is that cave, which represents darkness, which represents everything that we need to cross through faith. The second mountain on which Hanumanji climbed was the mountain of thought. Mahendra Parvat represents the mountain of thought. So now Hanumanji had to cross an ocean which was 800 miles long. And the 800 miles long ocean represents what is known as Deha Abhiman. What is the meaning of Deha Abhiman? Deha means body, and Abhiman means pride of having the body. So all of us, before we reach Bhakti Devi, we have to cross this massive ocean of having pride in this body. Now each and every one of us have great pride in the body, and no matter how beautiful or how ugly we are, we somehow tend to feel very proud of having this body and very proud of the bodily connections that we have. It is explained that before we reach Bhakti Devi, before we reach Mother Sita, before we attain devotional service, we have to cross over this ocean of bodily attachment, Deha Abhiman. And this is an ocean. Why is it an ocean? It's not easy to cross at all. And it's a massive ocean. There is so much depth in it, there is so much length in it, and it's so wide and so huge to cross. It's not at all easy to cross. And therefore, some monkeys can cross the ocean only 10 miles. Some monkeys can cross the ocean only 100 miles. Some monkeys can cross the ocean only 400 miles. So it depends on how much ability you have to cross over this ocean of bodily pride, bodily attachment. A lot of times it takes a lifetime to cross over the ocean of bodily attachments. Srila Prabhupada, if you carefully listen, in practically every single lecture, Prabhupada speaks about how we are not the body, we are spirit soul. Practically in every single lecture. One time he was giving a Radhashtami lecture, and in the Radhashtami lecture, he was speaking about how we are not the body, we are spirit soul in great detail. So somebody asked Prabhupada, can you speak some Radha Krishna pastimes? Prabhupada said, if you have not understood the body soul pastime, what will you understand Radha Krishna pastime? Prabhupada never spoke Radha Krishna pastime because he felt that we are still in the ocean of material existence, the ocean of, we are not able to cross over the ocean of the body, the bodily attachment. What will we understand Radha Krishna pastime which are much beyond it? And therefore, Prabhupada very emphatically spoke about how we are not this physical body, but the spirit soul. And that's like an ocean for us to cross. And how do you cross that ocean? You can cross the ocean if you're standing on this mountain of thought. which is the second mountain on which Hanumanji was standing. And what does the mountain of thought actually mean for us? When Arjun was in the battlefield of Kurukshetra and he saw in front of him all his attachments, all his bodily attachments standing, Bhishma, Drona, his brothers, all relatives standing in front of him, all friends standing in front of him, Arjun said, I can't cross over this ocean. And therefore, to help Arjun cross over this ocean of bodily attachments, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a mountain of thoughts. The mountain of thoughts represents seeing life from a higher perspective, seeing the bodily attachments from a higher perspective. Only when you can see things from a higher perspective, you can actually jump over those attachments. And therefore, Hanumanji climbed over the second mountain, which represents the mountain of thoughts. From there, Hanumanji jumped. And as Hanumanji jumped, so many amazing things happened, which I will not get into details of. But when Hanumanji jumped, one of the things that happened is very interesting. Just like if you have a person who goes to a village, and after a few days of spending time in the village, he's leaving the village. The villagers walk along with that person to the edge of the village, towards the outskirts of the village, and from there the villagers come back, and that person goes ahead out of the village. Similarly, Hanumanji was a guest on Mahindra Parvat, and here when Hanumanji is jumping out of the mountain, the suction force with which Hanumanji jumps is so powerful that it actually sucks all the trees and the leaves and the animals along with it. So imagine Hanumanji is jumping ahead, and behind him trees are flowing. Behind him animals, lions, elephants are just being sucked along, and they all travel along with Hanumanji for a certain distance, and they all fall back, and Hanumanji travels ahead alone. So they are like villagers who are trying to leave Hanumanji towards the outskirts of the village, who has been their guest for some time, and then they all fall back, and Hanumanji goes ahead on his journey. So Hanumanji is traveling on his journey towards Lanka, and while he was on his journey towards Lanka, he comes across many obstacles. The first obstacle that Hanumanji comes across is a massive golden mountain named as Mainak. This massive golden mountain right in the middle of the ocean comes and stops Hanumanji. And the head of the mountain, whose name is Mainak, he starts having a discussion with Hanumanji, and he tells Hanumanji that, my dear Hanuman, you're on a long journey towards Lanka, and because you're going on such a long journey, why don't you take a break on my mountain? He said, my mountain is very well equipped with all kinds of flowers and fruits and comforts. You just stop on this mountain for for a short duration of time, recuperate, take some rest, eat some fruits, and then you can go ahead. Hanumanji said, my dear Mainak, thank you for your offerings, but I'm on a very important mission at this point, and I just cannot take a break. Maybe when I'm back from a mission, I'll think about it. Hanumanji just touched Mainak with his hands, and he flew away. Mainak represents the first obstacle that comes in the life of a sadhaka. One of the first obstacles. We saw many more in the past. And Mainak represents the comfort zone or complacency in one's devotion towards the Supreme Lord. So usually the tendency is a lot of people, when we start practicing bhakti very intensely, a lot of people come to us and tell us that, come on, why are you so intense in your devotion? What is the hurry? You have a whole life to practice. Don't be in a hurry. Do it slowly. Do it peacefully. Do it in a relaxed way. So a lot of people try to convince us that spiritual life is not an emergency. A lot of people are trying to tell us to practice spiritual life at a slow pace. And they are the ones who are trying to dissuade us from our journeys. And the understanding that Hanumanji gives is that till my mission is accomplished, I cannot rest. So Hanumanji was so clear on his goal, so clear on his mission, and therefore he felt that he has no time to rest at all. Similarly, just like Hanumanji, we are all on a mission to find Mother Sita, to find Bhakti Devi, and therefore we need to learn to deal with complacency, with getting into the comfort zone, with a lot of alertness. Mainak also represents all the worship and all the praise and adoration that comes your way while you're practicing devotional service. So if complacency doesn't work, if rest doesn't work, then people start appreciating you and praising you like anything. They start saying, "What kind of devotional service you're doing? You're an epitome of bhakti," and they start heaping so much praise on you. And we tend to pause and accept all that praise, all that appreciation, and we tend to bask in that appreciation and praise. And in the process of basking in that appreciation and praise, we tend to lose sight of our journey, and we tend to lose momentum of our journey. And therefore Hanumanji dealt with this with alertness, and he went ahead. And then, as he went ahead, Hanumanji came across a second obstacle, which was a huge demoness whose name was Surasa. And she came right in the middle of the ocean, opened her mouth wide and loud, and she told Hanumanji that I have a boon of Brahmaji, that anybody who passes over this ocean has to enter my mouth. Hanumanji told her, "See, I don't have time for this. I am on a mission, and only when I finish the mission, I can, think about this." See, she said, I don't care about your mission. I need to eat you up. That's all. Brahmaji's boon is there." Hanumanji said, "See, I don't care for any boons. I have to accomplish my mission." Then Surasa started making fun of him. She said, "Oh, you're scared of death. You're supposed to be a devotee of the Lord, and you're scared of death." Hanumanji said, "I'm not scared of death, but I don't want to die for a useless cause. I don't want to die before I accomplish my mission." So a devotee is not scared of death. Death is not a problem for a devotee. In fact, Hanumanji tells her, if by dying I'm going to be accomplishing my mission, I'm ready to die today. But if by dying I'm not going to be able to accomplish my mission, I will not die till I finish my mission. Imagine what kind of a mindset Hanumanji had. He was ready to challenge death itself till he finishes the mission. So for a devotee, dying is not a problem, but a devotee is more concerned about why to die. What is my cause? What is the reason for which I'm supposed to die? A devotee has no fear of death. Death is never his problem. Hanumanji said, "I can die right now, but my death has to be of some use." So a lot of times, when we say that we are not the body, we also tend to misunderstand that we may not be the body, but we have a body. Just because we are not the body doesn't mean we don't have a body. And while we have the body, we have to use the body in the best way possible in the service of the Lord, in the mission of the Lord. And therefore, neglecting the body is also not right. So Hanumanji is telling her, "I don't have any problem in giving up this body, but I don't want to die for a useless cause. I don't want to die just like that, become a food in your mouth." He said, "Let me accomplish my mission. And once I accomplish my mission, I don't mind dying in your mouth. I don't mind you eat me up, no problem. But not before I accomplish my mission." That is the determination of a devotee. A devotee is ready to challenge death itself if death comes in between his mission. And Surasa, she opened her mouth wide. She said, "I'll see how you go ahead." Hanumanji opened his mouth, he expanded himself to be bigger than Surasa's mouth. Surasa made her mouth 10 times bigger. Hanumanji made himself 20 times bigger. Surasa made herself 30 times bigger. Hanumanji made himself 40 times bigger. This went on and on and on till a certain point where Hanumanji realized, "What am I doing wasting my time with her?" He said, "She wants to prove that she's bigger than me. Let her prove it." Hanumanji just assumed the size of a fly, very tiny size. In fact, the Ramayana explains that Hanuman became less than zero, not just insignificant. He became practically invisible. So small he became. He entered into the mouth of Surasa and came out and told her, "See, I've taken care of Brahma's boom. I've entered your mouth and come out. Now let me go." So this is the second obstacle that a devotee comes across while practicing devotional service. The second obstacle is the competitive tendency, the competitive mentality. What is the competitive mentality? The competitive mentality is a mentality to prove to others that I'm better than you. So here Hanumanji is trying to prove that I'm bigger than you. Surasa is trying to prove I'm bigger than you. Hanumanji is trying, I am bigger than you. So a lot of times while we're practicing devotional service, We get into this loop, we get into this competitive mentality in trying to prove that I'm better than somebody else. So at some point, Hanumanji realized, what will I achieve by proving I'm better than somebody else? What will I achieve that by proving that I'm better than Surasa? So he said, let her be better than me. Let me just go. Let me just focus on my mission. A lot of times when we get caught in this competitive mentality of trying to prove that I'm better than somebody else, we lose track of the mission. We lose track of our goal. And therefore, how did Hanumanji deal with competition? Hanumanji dealt with competition by making himself very small. So he said, you be bigger, no problem. Let me just focus on my mission. So when we are trying to focus on the mission, even if we end up, even if other people think that they are bigger than us, it doesn't matter. What matters if somebody is bigger or smaller? As long as we are able to focus on the goal, on the mission, it doesn't really matter who is big and who is small. The mission is bigger than our personal proving that I'm bigger or smaller. And then Hanumanji went ahead. As he was going ahead, Hanumanji realized that when I'm swimming or when I'm flying close to the ocean, there are too many obstacles coming. I need to fly higher. So he said, as long as I'm closer to the ocean, these kind of obstacles, Maina, Surasa, they'll keep coming one by one and they'll keep disturbing me. Let me fly higher. It is explained that there are different levels of flights. The birds fly at the lowest level. Higher than the birds, the kinnaras fly. And higher than the kinnaras, the Gandharvas fly. Higher than the Gandharvas, Apsaras fly. Higher than the Apsaras is the level at which Garuda flies. And much higher than the level of Garuda is the level at which Lord Shiva flies. It is explained that Hanumanji was flying at the level of Lord Shiva. Hanumanji himself was Rudra, and therefore he could fly at the level of Lord Shiva above the ocean. And though Hanumanji was flying so high, uh, his shadow was on the ground. So the sun was above Hanumanji, and Hanumanji's shadow was on the ocean, and Hanumanji was flying above the ocean very smoothly. At one point, as Hanumanji was flying, he suddenly felt stuck. He was not able to go ahead, he was not able to come behind, he was just stuck in one place. And suddenly he started feeling pulled towards the ocean. And as Hanumanji was flying at full speed, helplessly towards the ocean, that's when he realized that Sugriv, when he left from Kishkinda, he had warned of a demoness whose name was Simhika. Her name was also Chaya Grahi. Chaya Grahi means Chaya means shadow, and Grahi means hold. So she had the ability to hold your shadow and pull you down. So Hanumanji realized that this is Simhika for sure. She has held the shadow of Hanumanji and she was pulling him down with the help of the shadow. Hanumanji flew straight into the mouth of Simhika. He made himself very tiny, flew into the mouth of Simhika, and while he was inside the mouth, he tore open all her internal organs and tore open the stomach and came out, and thus killed Simhika. Now, Simhika represents the next obstacle that comes in the life of a sadhaka. So, what is this obstacle? This obstacle is known as envy. Um, Hanumanji was flying very high. Flying very high represents being very successful in life. So, no matter how high you fly, there will always be some shadow on the ground. No matter how successful you are, you will always have one fault at least in your life. The most successful people in life always have at least one fault. And people like Simika are those who do not focus on your success, but they focus on your faults. They find at least one fault in you and they hold on to that fault very intensely and pull you down from wherever you are, however high you are, using that one fault. That is the nature of envy. The nature of envy is that an envious person does not care how many good qualities you have. The envious person does not care how successful you are. The envious person only cares for that one bad quality that you have and focuses on that one bad quality. Similarly, all of us in our own lives, I'm sure that we come across envy. And the nature of envy is that the nature of envy is it tends to neglect all the good qualities that a person has and only focuses on one fault and tries to pull the person down from great heights using that one fault. No matter how successful you are, you will have at least one fault that keeps you grounded. No matter how high you fly, you'll have at least one fault that will keep you in touch with the ground realities of life. And no matter how successful you are, there'll be at least one thing that will keep you humble. And that one quality is very important. That one fault is very important for every envious person or every successful person to meditate on to keep himself or herself humble. And here, Simika pulled Hanumanji down using that one fault that he had, which is represented by the shadow. So, how did Hanumanji deal with Simika? How did Hanumanji deal with envy? Hanumanji dealt with envy by destroying it. There's one quality that has no place in a devotee's life, and that is envy. If we allow envy to grow in our life, it will destroy us and it will destroy our devotion completely. And therefore, Hanumanji destroyed envy. And then he went ahead and he landed in Lanka on a third mountain. This is the third mountain on which every sadhaka has to climb before reaching Bhakti Devi. The mountain on which Hanumanji landed is a mountain named as Subela. And Hanumanji landed on this mountain. And from this mountain, he was looking at the city of Lanka. This mountain represents the third mountain that a sadhaka has to climb, which is known as the mountain of detachment or the mountain of renunciation. It is also known as the mountain of Vairagya. This is the third mountain every sadhaka has to climb before reaching Bhakti Devi. Now, what does this mountain actually represent from Hanumanji's point of view? Now, remember, Hanumanji had landed in Lanka, and Lanka is a golden city. It's a city of temptations. It is a city of beauty. It's a city of so much opulence. And naturally, if you land in a city of so much opulence, it is most natural that you'll be attracted towards those opulences. You'll be attracted towards those temptations. But Hanumanji, before he entered the city of Lanka, he climbed on this mountain of Vairagya. He climbed on this mountain of renunciation. When you stand on top of the mountain of renunciation, nothing can attract you, nothing can distract you, no temptations can take you away from your focus. And therefore, when you see the city of Lanka below the mountain, standing below the mountain, you get very attracted to that city. But when you look at the city of Lanka, standing on the mountain of Vairagya, standing on the mountain of renunciation, the city doesn't attract you at all. The city is pale. All that gold, all the razzle dazzle of Lanka does not attract Hanumanji because he's standing on the mountain of renunciation. Similarly, all of us as sadhakas have to climb these three mountains: the mountain of faith, the mountain of thought, and the mountain of renunciation. Standing on these three mountains, then we can look at, we can find Mother Sita, and we will be inspired to find Mother Sita over there. From this mountain on which Hanumanji was standing, Subela, he could see Lanka across the forest. And Lanka was situated on a fourth mountain. The fourth mountain on which Lanka was built was known as the Trikuta mountain. And that mountain represents the mountain of pride. Ravan's palace was at the peak of the Trikuta Parvat. That means Ravan was sitting on the peak of the mountain of pride. Because he was sitting on the peak of the mountain of pride, he could not access Mother Sita, though she was staying with him in Lanka. Imagine, Ravan had all access to Bhakti Devi, but he could not access Bhakti. The reason was because he was sitting on a mountain of pride. Anybody who was sitting on the mountain of pride and who has not climbed these three mountains, the mountain of faith, the mountain of thought, and the mountain of renunciation, cannot have access to Bhakti Devi in the way a sadhaka wants. Finally, Hanumanji, after so many other uh, impediments and discussions that happen in Lanka, finally he comes across Mother Sita. And when Hanumanji sees Mother Sita, he has an experience that he can never forget in his life. Remember, this is the first time that Hanumanji is looking at Mother Sita. No other monkey has ever seen Sita till now. None of them have seen photographs or WhatsApp images or anything of Mother Sita till this point of time. So, how do you recognize Sita? So, Hanumanji was, of course, there is a lot of details that happen in between. But when Hanumanji sees Mother Sita, He has no problem in recognizing Sita. The reason is because the moment he looked at her, he actually felt he was looking at Lord Ram only. He actually felt he was looking at Lord Ram only. Because Mother Sita was so absorbed in Lord Ram, she was so absorbed in meditating on Lord Ram that she actually began to look like Lord Ram. I'm sure all of you would have seen many husband and wives that start looking like each other, that happens quite a lot in this world also, So the Mother Sita was so absorbed in Lord Ram that she had actually attained what is known as Sarupya Mukti. She had actually started looking like Lord Ram exactly. So when Hanumanji looked at Mother Sita for the first time, he actually felt great devotion in his heart. He felt like folding his hands. That was the power of looking at Mother Sita for the first time. And Hanumanji, he decided to surrender his life to Mother Sita. And Hanumanji and Mother Sita had so many amazing discussions and conversations that we can probably take up another time. And Hanumanji and his journey to Lanka represents all our journey to find Bhakti Devi and get access to the spirit of devotion. And just like Hanumanji had so many obstacles that he came across and how he overcame each of these obstacles, similarly, we also have so many obstacles that we need to cross before we attain Bhakti Devi or Mother Sita. I'll stop at this point of time. We can take up questions if there are any. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Vilas Prabhu. It was an incredibly uplifting talk. Just various perspectives on how we can apply these principles in our own lives. The mountains of faith and thought and renunciation, and how they lend us so much, such a powerful perspective, and we can meditate on each one of these thoughts and empower our own determination in Krishna consciousness. So thank you so much for that. So if anybody has any questions, our first question is from Portugal. His Grace Vijay Krishna Prabhu is asking a question. Go ahead, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Oops, what happened? Vijay Krishna Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Yes, we can hear you.
Shubha Vilas Prabhu.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Prabhu, accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. My question is in connection with a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, as it is. And this verse came to my mind while you were lecturing, because the verse says that it belongs to the 9th chapter, and it is the verse number 2, where we find that the most confidential knowledge, it is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. So in accordance with your lecture, it seems to me that while we are on the journey for reaching Bhakti Devi, so many mountains we need to use, and so many obstacles are there. So my question is, it seems to me that the journey is difficult, but still, is it possible to experience joy while we are journeying in order to reach Sita, Bhakti Devi?
Yes. So the journey is always a joyful journey. Susukham karatum avyayam is. It's always joyfully performed. But just because it is joyfully performed does not mean it is not intense. Srila Prabhupada would always say, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Right? Like one time, Satsurup Maharaj, when he was, this is a very beautiful story that happens in one of the temples in America when in the initial years, the devotees sitting together and performing japa. They were all chanting together in the morning time. And a newcomer just walked into the temple. And when the newcomer saw, everybody is chanting so intensely, some of them are shaking their head, some of them are shaking their body, and their faces had very intense expressions, So this man, this newcomer, just walked up to one of our leaders and he asked him that, "You say chant Hare Krishna and be happy. I don't see anybody happy over here." So then this devotee, he said, "Actually, that's our advertisement: chant Hare Krishna and be happy." But the whole sentence says, chant Hare Krishna, struggle, and be happy. So right now, what you see is a struggle phase. And in the struggle phase, it may seem that they're not happy. But actually, don't mistake that struggle. That struggle is what actually makes us happy. So therefore, the process of Krishna consciousness is definitely susukham kartubhavyayam. The process of Krishna consciousness is definitely joyfully performed, but even the struggle is enjoyed. So it's not that we are struggling so badly that the struggle demotivates us. The struggle itself is a joy.
Thank you.
I hope it answers.
Thank you, Shubha Vilas Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thanks.
Next question is by Ajay Govind Prabhu. Go ahead, Ajay Govind Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for a nice lecture. Prabhuji, I have a question regarding initially you were mentioning that Angad did not want to go to Lanka because he was not sure that, he'll get stuck in the allurement there, the material things. Is it somewhere in the scriptures referred that, this was...
This is a commentary of an Acharya.
Okay. Do you know which Acharya, Prabhu?
This is Shri Vaishnav. I heard from Bhakti. There's a scripture called Bhakti Ratnakar, which has some subtle commentaries of different acharyas, especially Govindaraj.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. And the second question which I had was that you were saying that when Hanumanji did reach Lanka, he was able to see Sita as, she was resembling just like Lord Shri Ram, like the Sarupya Mukti. So Sita is like, Sarupya Mukti is for the people who come to the material world. So how do we understand that?
See, that's what I'm saying. Don't get stuck in the literal understanding of it. Look at the bhav of it. Look at the mood of how Sita is meditating on Lord Ram constantly. See, these muktis are all external from a highest devotional perspective. But it just enhances the beauty of the connection. It just enhances the beauty of the love between Sita and Ram. So I would prefer to see it from that perspective.
Thank you, Prabhu. That helps. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Nitika.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Wonderful class. I just had a quick question about the pastime where the spider was also assisting in helping build the bridge using his or her capacity. And Hanumanji was trying to push the spider away because he thought he's doing a great job lifting the big boulders. And Lord Ram had to come and chastise Hanumanji. How do we look at Hanumanji's attitude here?
Yeah, so see, what happens is enthusiasm is always good. But sometimes in our enthusiasm to do things, we tend to undermine other people's enthusiasm. So this usually happens when we are result oriented and not people oriented. So the tendency is that we want to achieve a lot for the mission of the Lord. That tendency is not wrong. But in the process of achieving something for the mission of the Lord, we shouldn't forget the missionaries who are also working along. So this tendency is always there in anybody who is a high achiever, and especially when they look at achievement from an external perspective. Just like when the building of the bridge was happening, Lord Ram asked Hanumanji, "Why are we building the bridge?" So Hanumanji said, "We are building the bridge to reach Lanka and kill Ravan." Ram said, "I'm sitting as Paramatma in Ravan's heart. I can just switch off, and he will die. We don't need to really build the bridge." So then Hanumanji said, "Maybe we're building the bridge because the whole army can cross the ocean." Ram said, "I can dry up the ocean today. You don't need to build a bridge to cross the ocean." And then Hanumanji was confused. Then he asked him, "My dear Lord, why are we building the bridge?" Ram told him, "We are building the bridge to engage you in some seva. And just like you need to be engaged in some service, these spiders or squirrels, they need to be also engaged in some service." And that's the mood that Lord Ram helped Hanumanji understand. So for a lot of us, we do seva because we want to achieve some result. But from the perspective of the Supreme Lord, we do seva for the sake of seva itself. There's no result to be achieved as such. So when we remember that mood, then it doesn't matter how much we do and how much our capacity is. Sometimes everyone needs reminders, including Hanumanji, including great devotees like Hanumanji. And the Lord has his sweet ways of reminding us through great devotees like Hanumanji.
Thank you, Prabhu. There's a question from Naveen Krishna Prabhu. His question is, laulyam or intense greed, or highly enthusiastic to serve or looking opportunity to serve versus staying back, only doing services when asked. Both look like two extremes. One's laid back and one is extremely intense greed. How do we know which is the right approach how do we know which is the right one at the right times? Thank you.
So I'm just trying to process it. It seems to be a specific context. Enthusiasm to serve or looking for opportunity to serve, and staying back and only do what is asked. Both are extremes. So my understanding is, whenever Srila Prabhupada spoke about service, a devotional service, he usually spoke about service attitude with which we serve, basically. So what I feel is important is you have to look at the whole thing from what is the right attitude to have. So now sometimes looking for service may be also seen in the wrong attitude. You may be looking for service in the wrong attitude, or you may be told to stay back and you may be staying back with the wrong attitude. So now either ways, if the attitude is right, then it doesn't matter what you do. Like Bharat stayed back in Ayodhya, but Lakshman insisted on going with Ram. Both of them, they did it, but both of them did it with the right attitude. Bharat stayed back thinking that I am going to be following the instructions of Ram. And Lakshman said, I don't care for the instruction of Ram. I want to protect the body of Ram. Now you can't say Bharat was right and Lakshman was wrong. Both of them were doing their service in the right attitude, basically. So Ram appreciated both of them because they were honest to who they were, who they are, and they were honest to what the need is also. So there was a need for somebody staying back in Ayodhya. And there was also a need for somebody going with Ram to assist him in his pastimes. So both the needs were justified. Now Lakshman, if he stayed back in Ayodhya, he would have created a chaos, because his temperament wouldn't allow him to serve properly, And Bharat, if he went with Lord Ram in Chitrakoot and Dandakaranya, he would have probably not done the best service because Lord Ram Bharat is always in this mood of he's in a very differential mood compared to what Lakshman is in terms of protection. And therefore we find you need to be honest with who you are. You need to be honest with what your capacity is. You need to be honest with what the need is of the mission. And when you are honest with all these three things, and then you are open, which is what the right service attitude is, then you come to the right conclusions, obviously. Yeah. I hope I'm making some sense.
Oh yeah, wonderful answer, Prabhu. That was fantastic because sometimes we tend to lose sight of our own capacities, and our enthusiasm may not line up with our personalities, even on our abilities, and it may not line up with what's actually needed to be done. That's also another consideration. So it's wonderful that we have to keep all three in line to get the most optimal situation. So perfect. Thank you so much. So we unfortunately time is not on our side, so we'll have to end over here. It's almost 9:15 in the evening. So I'll just make a quick announcement for the upcoming speakers, and then we'll have a word of thanks from His Grace Nilmani Prabhu. So upcoming speakers, we have...
which is shares.
Okay. Nirmani Prabhu, I'm just going to unmute you there for a second. Okay, so upcoming speakers, we had His Grace Vilasa Prabhu this evening. And then tomorrow we have our Friday evening session with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, who's also present in our assembly today. Thank you, Maharaj. And we're looking forward to the first canto lecture series continuing tomorrow, same time. Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, we have, for the first time, His Grace Kurma Prabhu, very famous world-class chef, Srila Prabhupada disciple, and he'll be speaking on Srila Prabhupada's great transcendental adventure in his pastimes in New Zealand and Australia, Srila Prabhupada's pastimes. So don't miss that. It's Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Saturday evening at 8 p.m., His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj will be speaking. And then Sunday evening at 6 p.m., His Grace Amarendra Prabhu will speak once again. So please join us for all these sessions upcoming. And thank you very much. I want to thank His Grace Yashoda Dalal Prabhu for helping us arrange the talk today with the Subhilash Prabhu. And I want to thank Nilmani Prabhu for also helping and facilitating and coordinating so many of these things. So Nilmani Prabhu, please take the stage and the microphone, and we can offer a word of thanks, after which we will open up the microphones and all the devotees can say quick Hari Bol to Subhilash Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you, Gopal Prabhu. Thank you very much, Shubha Prabhu, for coming. I have to say that, we've been arranging lots and lots of speakers, but Shubha Prabhu, one day I requested him on WhatsApp, please Prabhu, please come on our Sangha. And within 5 minutes, he accepted and immediately agreed. So it's so nice, Prabhu, that you came and gave this wonderful class on Hanumanji. And I never heard so many explanations and examples and understanding of the deep understanding of the various events that took place on Hanumanji's journey. So it was very, very nice, nectarian to hear. I know many of the devotees have enjoyed it. I'm seeing their comments also. So thank you so much, Prabhu, and we look forward to inviting you again in the near future for our Sangha. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, so much.
From Portugal.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Beautiful lecture. Thank you.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you for class, Prabhu.
Thank you, Subhilash Prabhu. Thank you very much. Good understanding. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Haribol. It's already over.
Can do it again.
No, it's okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Wonderful class.
Hari Bol, Dandavad.
Subhilash Prabhu, you have explained so nicely the journey of Hanuman. Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Hari Bol.